in the same set of mantras that Guru Gobind Singh he gives Sri Maya Lakshmi Ji Sahai, which is a part of a longer invocation, there's a mantra which again is related to the Buddhism, which is the Satnam mantra. And if you hear some Buddhist sutras, it mentions Saptnam. It's actually the same concept. And it's hence why Guru Gobind Singh Muktamara Granth, he mentions this about the Buddha and about mantra. And so the Saptanam, or the 7 names, are based on 7 planets, 7 chakras, 7 heavens, and there's a lot about 7 directions as well. And 7 comes so many things in spiritual, like ideas. And so the 7 mantras are Bij mantras. Bij mantras are seed mantras. Seed mantras represent the sounds that are found within the chakra, within our chakras. And so Guru Gobind Singh, he gives the first, there's a whole mythological story with this and it's just too long to tell. But basically, the first Bij mantra is Hung, and Hung is Muladhara chakra. And then our sexual chakra is Khang, and then our Manipura chakra is Nihang, and then our heart chakra is Ang, our throat chakra is Om, and our third eye is Yang, and then our crown chakra is E. You memorize all that, yeah? You're going to do it. We'll go through it a few times. And that's to activate all the chakras. In a way, it's really good, but in a way, it's really futile. Just as a kind of a different understanding to this. And we started with compassion, and we have to kind of follow that pathway and that truth. So Ananda says to the Buddha, before Buddha's Mahaparinirvana, when he goes into the eternal, and basically before he leaves this earth. So Ananda says to the Buddha, and Ananda wasn't a clever disciple, he was a very simple person. And he says to the Buddha, so Master, I've listened to so many sutras, you've written so many, there's so much, there's whole libraries are full of what you've said. I can't remember all of it. So can you sum it all up for me in one go? All of what you've said, sum it up for me in one go, because I'm a simple person, it's too much for me. And the Buddha says to Ananda, okay, that's not a problem, I can sum it up. Because it's like doing a PhD, isn't it? You know, your PhD has got to be the last 2 lines of your PhD, right? If you can't sum it up in those last 2 lines or your abstract, you better not have started it. That's the art of doing it. So Guru Nanak's PhD, he sums it up with the first 2 words in the Sikh scripture, Ik Onkar Satnam. That's simple. That's the genius of it. He sums it up into 2 words, and the whole of the rest of the scripture is trying to explain that. So Buddha, everything he left, imagine this whole place full of volumes of sutras. The Buddha's life's work is huge. You need libraries to contain it. The Jains have even more scriptures, by the way. There are so many scriptures that Jains, it's limitless almost. It would take you years to count them. So the Buddha left a lot of material. So Ananda asked actually a very good question. Could you please sum up everything you've said? Because it's just gone past me. I just don't get it. And the Buddha said, yeah, okay, get me a silk scarf and get me a rope. So Ananda brings those and he puts them in front of the Buddha. And the Buddha says, tie 7 knots into the scarf and into the rope. And he ties the knots into them all. And then the Buddha says to Ananda, take the rope. And he said, in the fastest way possible, take these knots out. And Ananda starts at the bottom. He takes the first one out, the second one out, the third one out, the 4th one out, etc., one by one. And then the Buddha says to him, in the silk scarf, take the knots out in the fastest way possible. He starts at the bottom, he goes through. And the Buddha said, that's the teaching. And he sat there in silence for a minute. He goes, what kind of teaching is this? He said, I don't understand, what teaching is this? And the Buddha says to him, okay, this is the teaching. Put the knots back in. And then he put the knots back in to the rope and the scarf. And he said, pull the one in the middle in the rope. And when he pulled it, he basically could, when you open that one, you're getting more knots, aren't you, on the other ends? Still, you can do it, but it's still difficult because they're going to stick to each other. And you see, you've got like a kind of a puzzle going on. You've got to make a bit of space, fiddle around with it, get it. But he could probably do it, but it was fiddly. Then he goes, in the scarf, do the same. And from the middle, when he pulled it, all the knots came out in one go. And then there was still silence. And he goes, this is the teaching for you. He said, but what's the teaching? The Buddha said, if you follow Hatha Yoga, if you follow rigorous kind of self-purification and you go through one chakra at a time, you're going to be there doing one at a time. And if you're very rigid and you start doing it from your heart, you're going to have obstacle after obstacle after obstacle because you're rigid and you're not fluid. But if you're like the silk scarf and you're very fluid and you're very malleable, you just need to go from your heart and all your other chakras will purify themselves. So in a way, the mantra we're going to do now is futile because that's really the truth. If you do bhakti, you do it from your heart, you will purify yourself. If you're like worried about your throat chakra and you're doing shoulder stand, well, you're going to be there for a good 6 months. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of knowledge and you're going to be the expert on the throat chakra, but hey, you're wasting a lot of time. We're not here for thousands of years. So, what comes through the heart is very powerful. Bhakti, the devotion, compassion, can change everything inside us. But we're still going to do this. We're still going to practice it. And so my brother is going to bless us by leading this chant. And if you feel like it, you can explain more, bro.
Yeah. Who remembered the 7 beach mantras? All right. So give us a reminder, and you can repeat after me. Yeah, and then also connect from the root up to your crown to each chakra. Hang. Kang. Niang. Ang. Om. Yang. I. One more time. Hang. Kang. Niang. Ang. Om. Yang. I. Hang. Kang. Niang. Ang. Om. Yang. I. And now all join in, and if you haven't memorized, don't worry. After we go a few cycles, you'll just be able to follow. Hang, kang, yang, ang, om, yang, i. Hang, kang, yang, ang, om, yang, i. Try to join Hang Nyang Ang Om Yang I